The Past and Passing of Ebenezer Scrooge by Xeda Mulgrew, 6th grade, Newton D. Baker School of Art. As I stood over Ebenezer Scrooge, I couldn't help the tears falling down my face as his body lays lifeless. This man had been a great hero, and it ripped my heart out knowing I would not see him ever again. The smell of the flowers filled the air and looked so beautiful surrounding the shiny silver casket. I could hear the chatter of many people behind me and noticed that my palms were beginning to get clammy. The thought of speaking about Ebenezer's life in a room crowded with strangers made my stomach queasy. I want to thank you all for coming today to celebrate the life of my hero, Mr. Ebenezer Scrooge. My name is Tim Cratchit, but Mr. Scrooge liked to call me Tiny Tim. Sweat started to glisten on my forehead as I saw all the eyes staring at me. There is so much to say about Mr. Scrooge, and I know others that are speaking after me, so I will keep it short. I met Ebenezer when I was 7 years old, standing outside of his office building. My father worked for him for many years, and even though Mr. Scrooge was not always nice, I was grateful for him. I would wait outside for many hours for my father to get off work. Mr. Scrooge didn't care if I was standing in the snowy, freezing weather. I was never invited into his office. Chills filled my overheated body as I remembered those moments very well. When I was 8 years old, Mr. Scrooge came out of his office one day and was smiling. There was a sparkle in his eye where there used to be a dark, cold stare. He had rosy cheeks, and it surprised me that for the first time I could see his teeth. This time he told me to have a Merry Christmas, and you could see that he really meant it. Following behind him was my father, who had a new glow on his once tired-looking face. I didn't understand what had made such a change in both men, but it had me very excited. My father picked me up that day and carried me all the way home humming Christmas music. It was a memory I will never forget. As a young child, I couldn't do many things like most children do. I was always sick and in bed most of the time, wishing I could be well enough to play like all the rest of the kids. My father said that Mr. Scrooge started giving him extra money to make sure that I could get a proper care from a doctor. Feeling better each day, I was able to spend time with other children and play in the field with them. My mother was filled with joy, knowing that I was gaining my strength back. Christmas was always a time I looked forward to, and now that tomorrow is Christmas, it will have a sadness because we will not have Mr. Scrooge at our dinner table. As a 14-year-old boy, I do not know everything, but I do know what love is. Thank you, Mr. Scrooge, for showing me that. It was only a week ago when I said yes to him when he asked me to go with him shopping. Mr. Scrooge was going to purchase Christmas presents for the orphanage in our town. When he picked me up, he told me that I was a big reason for his change of heart. A great awakening took place the night before Christmas 7 years ago. Strange dreams haunted him, causing him to open his eyes and strive to become full of love. As we were walking across the street to the giant toy store, I felt a push and heard Mr. Scrooge screaming. I turned around to see that he had pushed me away from an oncoming truck. At that very sad moment, I began to burst into tears, seeing Mr. Scrooge laying on the ground after being struck by the truck. Sounds of sniffling and nose-blowing rang through the room as I began to end my speech. There was not one dry eye in the funeral. Mr. Ebenezer Scrooge showed me what the true meaning of Christmas was. It wasn't about the toys, food, or Santa Claus. It was about the birth of Jesus Christ. Jesus was all about giving from his heart and displaying love for one another. When I think about Ebenezer, I think about what John 15:13 says in the Bible. There is no greater love than to lay one's life down for another. Mr. Scrooge did that for me.